just going to say, Modani lefanecha, Modani So I like to begin my day in gratefulness and begin my practice that way so that I could open up to the possibilities of this moment. And hopefully, we're going to bring everybody a little bit of inner warmth on this, for many of us, a cold day.
Cold day.
Yes. And what really drew me into to meditation is this idea of dvekut, really the Hasidic ideal that you could live in dvekut, that it wasn't just something that you did, once in a while or even every day, but that you could establish a place inside you that was your connection to the divine resource that would be constantly there. And the truth is, I sometimes I lose my dveikut, and sometimes I find it again. And what I want to do is really establish that place of dveikut inside me and have it be as strong and as vital as it can be, so that it can be kind of like a compass point on my path, so that when I lose it, I can come back. And really, the 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 practice of meditation is a practice of tshuva, of of, of falling away and returning. And the idea is how quickly and how gracefully can we return. And what we're returning to is dvekut, which is, as Yitz Buxbaum, who died recently, may his memory be a blessing, wrote a book called Jewish Spiritual Practices, which was very influential in my life. And he begins the book with a definition of dvekut, which is God consciousness imbued with love. God consciousness imbued with love. And the idea is, can we maintain that God consciousness, which is not only imbued with love, it is fueled by love. And the more we are connected, then that's really what dvekut means, is connected. The more that connection is strong in us, the easier it will be for us to return to it when we lose it. And we need it, and we need it. I was reading this book called Mystical Activism by John Robinson, and to me he was describing a little bit of what dvekut is. And he calls the book Mystical Activism, the mystical activism of self-transformation, is here and now activism. We transform ourselves not to convince others to believe something or force institutions to change, but to alter our individual and collective experience of consciousness and reality itself. It's about being utterly transformed and, as divine humans, letting life happen spontaneously from within the experience of divine consciousness, from within our dvekut. Ultimately, we are each responsible for this transformation. We wake up, enter the divine realm, and become God in motion. This is a totally different kind of activism. Unpremeditated, unpredictable, unprescribed, and unself-conscious. We become divine humans and live from the flow of conscious, sacred being. To me, it's so compelling to realize that Hasidic ideal is there for all of us, to establish it within us. And then what we deal with when we're trying to do that practice of dvekut, of being in God's presence and allowing God to flow through us as our conscious sacred being. What happens is we have these minds that are very tricky and very active and are often pulling us this way and that. And so we need to really learn how to work with the wildness of the mind and really catch ourselves and return before too much damage can be done, before we veer off too far from our dvekut, and then it's hard to get it back. So I want to share with you a text from the Song of Songs, which is our core mystical text that is all about love, which I think for me is so important to my dvekut, my connection. And it is a description of what happens in the mind when I am in that beautiful place of dvekut. Suddenly, there are foxes. There are these wild thoughts that come in, and those foxes come to raid our vineyard just when the vines are in bloom. And so I say that this vineyard, this place of dvekut, is the place of our love and the place where the power of prophecy is cultivated. And then those pesky foxes, they're the they're the doubts, but they're also the fears, the cynicism, the planning, the mistrust, the worry that run wild through the mind, and they come into the mind just when just at the wrong moments, and they can kind of pull us out of that place of wholeness and fullness and connection with the oneness. So one of my foxes is doubt, and when the doubt begins to take hold, um, if I can catch it soon enough, I can return to this place of the vineyard inside me. And so, in the practice that I do of chanting, I am building inside me a commitment to stay in, to return to expand that place of dvekut, of God consciousness imbued with love inside me. And I'm building the commitment that when I fall away, I will return without too much fuss, without too much damage. And so the question I ask is, can I catch those foxes before they do too much damage? Can I redirect my attention towards the blessings in my life? So what I'd like to do as our practice this morning is to chant these words and to place them inside me so that they become a direction inside me that will allow me in the silence afterwards to be attentive and committed to catching those foxes. We don't have to do anything except become aware of where the mind goes, and then that mind doesn't have any hold on us anymore. We're not the victims of our thoughts. So when I chant, I like to think that I am rewiring my brain. And the neuropsychologist Rick Hansen says that if 5 things are there in your practice, there is a rewiring of the brain that happens. Those 5 things are novelty, uh, intensity, repetition, focus, and awareness. And that's what I need in order to undo the old grooves, the old conditionings, so that I can really step into that place of dvekut and return to the knowing inside me. So let's bring these words to life. And I love I love the chant because it kind of lifts up into a kind of a lightness what we're doing, so we don't have to get too serious about it. But all of us, we can make a commitment to catch those foxes. Echezulanu, Echezulanu, Shualim, Shualim, Kitanim, Mechablim, Kiramim, Ukramenu, Samadar, Echezulanu, Shualim, join me. Echezulanu, Shualim, Shualim, Kitanim, Mechablim, Kiramim, Ukramenu, Samadar, Echezulanu, Shualim, Echezulanu, Shualim, Shualim, Kitanim, Mechablim, Kiramim, Ukramenu, Samadar, Echezulanu, Shualim, Echezulanu, Shualim, Shualim, Kitanim, Mechablim, Kiramim, Ukramenu, Samadar, Echezulanu, Shualim, Echezulanu, Shualim, Shualim, Kitanim, Mechablim, Kiramim, Ukramenu, Samadar, Echezulanu, Shualim, Echezulanu, Shualim, Shualim, Kitanim, Mechablim, Kiramim, Ukramenu, Samadar, Echezulanu, Shualim, Echezulanu, Shualim, Shualim, Kitanim, Mechablim, Kiramim, Ukramenu, Samadar, Echezulanu, Shualim, Echezulanu, Shualim, Shualim, Kitanim, Mechablim, Kiramim, Ukramenu, Samadar, Echezulanu, Shualim, Echezulanu, Shualim, Shualim, Kitanim, Mechablim, Kiramim, Ukramenu, Samadar, Echezulanu, Shualim, Echezulanu, Shualim, Shualim, Kitanim, Mechablim, Kiramim, Ukramenu, Samadar, Echezulanu, Shualim, Echezulanu, Shualim, Shualim, Kitanim, Mechablim, Kiramim, Ukramenu, Samadar, Echezulanu, Shualim, Echezulanu, Shualim, Shualim, Kitanim, Mechablim, Kiramim, Ukramenu, Samadar, Echezulanu, Shualim. As we enter deeply into our own silent place of devekut, of connection, confirm up our resolve to be there, to be in God's presence, to feel that love moving in us, opening up to the flow of God through us. Catching the foxes, entering deeper into the stillness. Chazulanu, Shualim, Shualim, Ketanim, Mechablim, Keramim, Uchrameinu, Smada, Echazulanu, Shualim, Echazulanu, Shualim, Shualim, Ketanim, Mechablim, Keramim, Uchrameinu, Smada, Echazulanu, Shualim, Echazulanu, Shualim, Shualim, Ketanim, Mechablim, Keramim, Uchrameinu, Smadar, Echazulanu, Shualim, Echazulanu, Shualim, Shualim, Ketanim, Mechablim, Keramim, Uchrameinu, Smadar, Echazulanu, Shualim, Echazulanu, Shualim, Shualim, Ketanim, Mechablim, Keramim, Uchrameinu, Smadar, Echazulanu, Shualim. So may our devekut be something that is constant, that is always bubbling up inside us, that is always something to return to, a compass point for our lives. And maybe may we be aware of those foxes that sometimes run wild. And
through our vineyards.
Yes, through those sacred places of devekut in us. So I just want to leave you with that possibility of devekut, of connection to that divine flow, always. And when we lose it, there's always a pathway of return.
Thank you so much, Shefa and Raphael. Thank you both. We're going to conclude now with the recitation of the Mourner's Kaddish. If you are saying Kaddish for someone, or have them in mind and want to put them put their name in the chat, and we'll put up the text of Kaddish here. And those, if you'd like to unmute yourself, we make a cacophonous noise here, but it gives us a community of people who are saying Kaddish together. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei haba alma dibra yamlich machute v'chayechon yomecho v'chayechon beit Israel v'agala uzman karim yibru
Amen.
Amen.
Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yifamam v'yidhadar v'yidhalach v'yid'ala v'yid'kedusha Ela Ovirchata Vishirata Tush Vichata Nechemata Yuran Yom Rabba Mishlama Aleni V'Yakol
Chaim
Aleinu
V'Yakol
Israel
Imo Amen. Aseh Shalom V'Yomam Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu V'Yakol Israel Imo Amen.
Amen. Amen.
So thank you again to Shefa for that beautiful teaching. Before we close, I'll share again in the chat box the link to our website, where if you're able and so moved, you can make a donation in support of the work of IJS. We're grateful for that support, and we are grateful to all of you for being for helping create this beautiful community of practice every day. For those who are leaving now, we wish you good health. Hope to see you again tomorrow at the same time. Those of you who would like to stay are welcome to stay on here and ask Shefa any questions or share your reflection on today's meditation experience. Also, the recording for this meditation is saved on IJS's Facebook page, and the link for the Dropbox,
Amen.
where today's text can be found, is also in the chat. Okay, terrific. So if you have questions or reflections and want to share them in the chat, we'll be very happy to discuss them. Shefa, I was so struck by the playfulness, the lightness of the nigun, of the melody, especially when you started. As we slowed down, it got a little, it gets a little more contemplative as you slow it down. But when you started off, it was really like in this really light mood. And I had the image of the foxes and the way you had talked about it. It was almost a playful way of thinking of it. And I think that's a different route into mindfulness for a lot of us, to think of it in a playful way. I wonder if you can reflect on that a little bit.
I think that our practice can get so heavy, and we can get kind of discouraged by that wildness of the mind, and the idea of instead of kind of befriending the whole process, and allowing that sense of I don't know, it has kind of a movement in it, and I don't have to kind of, it's like when I get caught by a thought, I don't have to start swearing at that thought and getting upset with myself. I just know that, okay, that's the way it goes. But the lighter that I can feel inside me, and the more that I can kind of smile, both inner and outer smile, that the more energy that I have then for my practice.
Mm. Mm.
So I think it just came out, when I take a phrase like that, and I want to see what, how can I bring this to life? How might it be useful to our practice? And I want to both be aware of those foxes and vigilant against being sort of pulled into my conditioning of planning or regretting. But I don't want to be pulled down by the process. I want to be lifted up, and melody is something that can do that.
There's a question here from Valerie that comments some more about the use of Shir HaShirim, the Song of Songs, and that Valerie's observation is that our shuls and services tend to avoid thinking about or talking about sacred sexuality, and of course Shir HaShirim, the Song of Songs, is very central to a lot of Hasidic teaching and a lot of Ani Shenev Libi Air, I'm asleep and my heart is awake, is a central verse. But I wonder if you can talk a little bit more, and also about, like, it almost feels like there's a practice of reclamation here. This is not one of the verses, going to the foxes. It's not necessarily one of the highlight verses that most of us would immediately think of. You were really like finding a wonderful little piece of Shir HaShirim here, but
Well,
maybe a larger reflection.
I'll just say that at some point in my life, I have that we're commanded to love God with all our heart, with all our soul, with all our might. And I just felt like, well, how do I do that? I felt stymied in a sense of understanding how that love happens, until I really discovered the Song of Songs, and I felt like, oh, here is my really instruction manual of how to enter into that place of love. And Rabbi Akiva called the Song of Songs the Holy of Holies. And he said that had the Torah not been given, we could live our lives by the Song of Songs. And so I was tremendously fascinated with, well, what would it mean to live my life by the Song of Songs? So back in August, I sort of received this revelation, this idea that I was going to take the Song of Songs line by line and take a year to study it, to immerse myself in the song. And and it would be a parsha, every parsha. So this actually is from Parshat Bo. That every parsha also has a line or two from the Song of Songs connected to it. And so there's about 640 people who have joined me on this journey. And we look at one or two or three lines of the Song of Songs, immerse ourselves in it, and ask the question, how do I live this? I don't want to just put Torah inside my head. I want to live it. And the Song of Songs has been so important to the mystics because it has in it this kind of instruction that is very down to earth, very sensual, very embodied, very nature oriented. And I can take that line and spend the week contemplating the question that it gives to me. And I've been doing that with other people who are doing that exploration, and it's just transformative. It's just waking up my heart.
And I presume, Chef, if people wanted to learn more about that, they could go to your website.
Go to my website, and the project is called Love at the Center, because this is kind of the idea is this is how we put love at the center by putting the Holy of Holies, the Shir Shirim, at the center of our Jewish practice, and then everything else looks different from there.
And Adi, maybe we can put in, you can grab the website and put the link in there. Okay, Liz did it for us. There we go. And there was a question also here about Jewish spiritual practice by Yitzhak Buxbaum, who recently died. I wonder if you could share a little bit more about his influence on you and the influence of the book on you.
Well, I was in rabbinical school at the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College, and I was very frustrated because every time I would find something that I really wanted to go deep into, we'd always have to, to just go on to follow the curriculum because there was just so much that we had to learn. So I decided to take a year off of rabbinical school just to study this book and to do the practices that are in it. And each chapter of this book really references the Hasidic masters who took their everyday moment to moment lives as an opportunity for practice. So there's a chapter about eating. There's a chapter about sex. There's a chapter, about waking up. Every part of life is an opportunity for practice and to make it holy. And that became a kind of a guiding influence for me to say every moment of my life can be um, an opportunity for practice. Everything can be made holy. And actually, when I say the Havdalah blessing at the end of Shabbat, I say Hamavdil ben Kedushot Bakol, who makes a distinction between all of the holinesses, all the many different kinds of holinesses, because that's the only thing there is.
Mm, mm. And it's so remarkable to me that the language of finding holiness in all of these aspects, every aspect of our life, that's really a vision of halacha. Like that's what it's supposed to be, right? It's what all of this living is intended to be, and yet I think for a lot of people who define themselves not necessarily as halachic Jews, it's a very different way in of thinking about how do I bring. But really, it's a similar destination. How do I bring manifest kedusha, in all of these parts? And I love the idea of Hamavdil, you said ben kedushot bakol, right? In the holiness of everything. It's that's a beautiful way of putting it. Wow. We've got time for any more questions or reflections. There was one here that just said, "I enjoy the two of your voices together, the full and joyful sound, two little foxes moving from stalking me to two little foxes playing in the snow." Some lovely images. Many of us are looking out on a lot of snow this morning. All right, good. Oh, and here and okay, and so then you also had Audrey Abrams asked the 5 ways. I think that was a reference to
Well, Rick Hansen wrote many books, but I think that maybe the book that influenced me the most was called Hardwiring Happiness, or something like that. And really, what I learned from studying neuropsychology really is an affirmation of what I'm doing anyway. I am rewiring my brain. there are certain grooves in the brain. There's certain neural pathways that I get stuck in, and I'll always get stuck there unless I do this work of rewiring. And I think that's what we do in our practice. We are rewiring our brains. We are opening to blessing. We are kind of setting ourselves on a new course. And when I say Moda ani lefanecha in the morning, I'm saying, oh, this is the new groove. The old groove that is sort of hardwired into me is one of complaint, of looking for what's wrong, of looking for the dangers that are there. That's the brain that I have inherited. And I need to do some serious rewiring if I am to notice the beauty and the blessings and the miracle that's right in front of me. Because otherwise I won't see it. So that's how I see our practice, and that it can open us up to the present moment, which is so expansive. And yet, the old conditioning kind of narrows our focus towards, what has to get done, or what dangers might be out there, and we miss so much.
Mm.
So that's, and so the Song of Songs is really opening me up to how much pleasure and um, love and the embodied life can bring me into holiness, can like make me receptive to the blessing that God is wanting to give to me in this moment, if only I show up with awareness
Mm.
and with appreciation for that blessing.
Well, we appreciate the blessing of having you here with us and teaching with us, and as I said, that you've just been one of the pioneers of this whole movement of Jewish spirituality, and your music and everything you've contributed. So we're just so grateful for spending half an hour, 40 minutes with us today. And I think this is a good place for us to wrap up and say thank you to everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you so
If you
much.
can join us tomorrow at 12:30 at 12:30 Eastern once again. So thank you, everybody. Shalom. We'll see you.
Thank you so much for your
Thanks,
practice.
Shefa. Okay. Bye.